Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, I just want to say, I feel like I am among friends. I've been in the Lee Summit Chamber for many years, and Robin and I have worked together. And I've actually gone through Robin's program as well, and it's wonderful. It gives you lots of strategies, and we're going to talk about some of those strategies today. So it's a great program. But okay, and I don't know that I need to tell you much more about CommCARE because Jeffrey did a nice job of that. But I will highlight that we have multiple programs. Not just the call center, but we have an opioid overdose response program. So when people overdose from fentanyl and OxyContins and all those things, you can get access to a recovery coach and we'll help you get medications and get into outpatient services. We work with serious and emotionally disturbed children and keeping them in their homes and schools. And so we play a lot of part, but we're doing that in partnership with our community mental health centers like Rediscover Comprehensive, Truman, Swope. And Jeffrey did a nice job of explaining EAP, but we also play psychiatrists, nurse practitioners, and counselors in clinics all over the state of Missouri to serve clients and so help give people access to mental health services. So here's our moment. I love this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. This is a time to take a deep breath, focus. You're here with me for the next hour. I'm going to take you through some paces, but this is really about just focusing on the present, right? Let's be present in the moment, Jeffrey, and focus on
I'm listening.
he's giving me 20%.
I know
Jeffrey for a long time too. So anyway, so I have, just to let you know, I have some other things going on in the background. I have a mother-in-law that's in the hospital, my father's in the hospital, and since Friday. So it's a little bit of a distraction, but I'm here and I'm going to be focused on you. I put my do not disturb on. So anyway, let's see. The other thing is, I just like to focus, have you think about, because we're going to talk about stressors in our lives, right? For healthy organizations, we also need to have healthy bodies, right? Healthy personalities, healthy, you have to be a healthy individual. So to have a strong, healthy organization, you need to have a strong, healthy individual person. And so lots of stressors going on, right? Does anybody recognize any stressors on here? I want to shout out any stressors they may be experiencing besides these stressors, because I know there's more than these. But these are some things that we've been going through over the last year. Anybody want to share one? I want this to be interactive. It's not me just talking to you, so I'll start calling on you, because I know many of you. So
Working all the time.
working all the time.
Anticipation about the future.
Yes.
Very worried.
Uncertainty, right? Mm-hmm.
There's a general lack of security for people.
Yes.
They don't like change to begin with, and then they're,
Yeah.
that's on top.
Change is an interesting topic, right? We like to say we like change, but then we don't really, do we? We want to keep things the way they were, and so we've gone through lots of changes. So we're gonna talk more about our stressors and how to manage stress for ourselves. But just to be aware, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the brain. And so this is a picture of the brain. And so normally when we're calm, collected, and focused, we make decisions mostly cognitively, right? And the upper part of our brain, the neocortex. Social, emotional is next, and then survival is probably the least, like fight or flight, freeze, those kinds of things. But when we're stressed out, that whole system flips. And so then we immediately go to our reptilian brain and fight, flight, or freeze, right? We want to fix survival, basic survival. And so kind of like to your point of uncertainty, like what do I need to do next? And so we're not necessarily cognitively thinking through our decisions, we're just reacting. So we need to learn to pause, take a breath, focus, and make decisions in a way that will be helpful to ourselves, right? So don't make them in haste. So let's talk, I'm gonna have you guys talk a little bit amongst yourselves about stress response. And so how do you respond to stress? And so it's good that we have people at tables. If you don't have somebody at your table, you can turn around and talk to your other person. But let's talk about these questions with your neighbors real quickly. How do you respond to stress? have you done an inventory of the things that are stressing you out? And then, I'm trying to read off the back, what are your current modes of response? And are they working for you? So let's just take a few minutes and talk about that, and then we'll report out.
Yeah, I bet you
What about
So what, you guys obviously engaged that exercise wonderfully. Thank you for that, I appreciate it. So let's hear some of your answers. Does anyone want to share anything that they learned today from yourself, from your partner?
Yeah. We talked about an inventory of all the things that are stressing you out. Garrett and I both don't try to think about things that are stressing us out. We try to focus on the now and not worry about all the other stuff. We try to control what we can control at that moment in time.
So be present in what you're doing right now. It's good. Okay, what, yes, Matt?
When I'm stressed out, I can choke down an entire bag of all these chips. The whole thing.
Stress eating, is that what we call that? Not always the most healthiest thing. Depends on what kind of chips. Right?
Yeah, they're baked, you're okay.
Apple chips.
You're not.
Now, listen.
Anybody else want to share anything that they learned?
I would just say, I think with my own practices of mindfulness, I still have stress. I feel like I'm able to navigate them cognitively, but my body tells me when I'm stressed. So it'll usually it used to present as a stomach ache. And then that was years ago. And more recently, in the last 5 or 8 years, it's presented as kind of a tension headache in the back of my head. So it's just kind of my signal, because our bodies are true sayer. So sometimes even if we think we're not stressed or anxious, our body's telling us something else. And so that's kind of my little tune in to go, oh, maybe I need to go for a walk. Or, do some meditation or do some things that bring me joy to help with that.
That is lovely, Robin, because being in tune with your body, because your body is telling you something's wrong, right? And so it's time to respond to that in a healthy way. So that's good. And do you know that in your gut, you have as many, if not more, neurons there in your body as you do in your brain? And so your gut tells you a lot about what's going on in your body. Garrett?
Yeah, it helps to have a mantra. that you take with you wherever you go.
I love that.
And the one that I got from Senator Dirksen years ago. And it's, security is the ability to accept change.
Security is the
Securing
ability
that
to
business
accept change.
helps.
So you say that when you're stressed
Yeah.
out, when you need to refocus.
I know I can get past this, I've done it before.
That's great. I think a mantra is wonderful. It's something you can tell yourself over and over and move forward. That's wonderful. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Well, thank you for that. The other thing I just wanted to add, I didn't hear, is breathing. Breathing is so important to what we do to regulate our bodies. And so breathing through our nose activates our parasympathetic system. It helps calm our body. So take a deep breath in, 4 count, and then breathe out. And some people will say breathe out 4, some will say breathe out 7. It just, you have to figure out what's good for you. I actually personally like breathing out longer than 4, and so I'll usually go to 7. But doing that 3 times or more will help kind of start regulating your body. All right, let's talk about how do you build your resilience muscle. And so this is a great book by Gail Wagenald, True Resilience. And so she really has the pillars of building a resilient core. And so how many of you do things for your health, physical health, and your mental health and wellness? Good. So you go and get your checkups, you do. Whenever somebody's having trouble mentally with something, I always say, well, have you also gone to the doctor and got checked out? Because we want to make sure there's not a physical problem happening to cause the mental, because we know that they are connected and they do. Anytime you have a physical element, I can tell you right now, you know, you have increased symptoms of anxiety, depression, all those other things. And so making sure you are activating that pillar in your life. And so giving and seeking support. So who loves to give support in the room? There are givers, so yes. And so what is it like? What does it do for you when you give support?
It makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good, right?
Warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. And what does it also do? Helps other people feel good. Except for if you can't receive it, right? Some people have a hard time receiving support. And so you have to coach them on how it's okay to receive support. And so, yes, balancing that, giving and seeking. And so sometimes when you're feeling down, sometimes it's good to go give support to somebody. Let's go do something. Let's go volunteer somewhere. So how can I contribute? So making sure we're activating that pillar. And then balancing rest, responsibility with recreation, right? So we all have responsibilities, right? We all have jobs, we have families, we have things we have to do every day. But are we getting enough sleep? I think you hear about this a lot, sleep hygiene. You know, how many hours are you getting a night? What are you doing for recreation or exercise or wellness? What are those things? And so balancing those things in your life, even if it's just 5 minutes, figuring out a way to get some of that into your day. I know a lot of times I talk to people and I'm like, I'm working, my kids are in school, I'm trying to help my kids. I mean, it's like take some time for yourself, because it's only going to help you focus and help your kiddos or your coworkers or colleagues. And then making sure that you're finding ways to engage in life, that you're not just letting life pass you by. Me personally, I like to give back, and so I volunteer with a lot of organizations, or I find things that are important. Like I know Jeff likes football, and so he does a lot of football stuff. And so that's good. You know, find those outlets that are important for you. Build that. And so I gave this handout. I think I tried to hand it out. It's back there if you didn't get it. But this is just a way to find time. And this is to give you options for if it's just 2 minutes or 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Like if you're having trouble figuring out what you can do, look on this list. Like a lot of times, if I just have 2 minutes, I may just step outside and take some deep breaths, feel the sun, get some vitamin D. You know, a lot of times that's helpful in recentering. So you can do more of that the more time you have. So can you go on a walk? can you just strut around real quick? What is it? But getting up and activating your system, not just staying at a desk, is important as you manage yourself. So I have a standing desk, and so I'll stand and sit, and then you gotta break away the system. It's also important that you're activating your system and not just doing the same thing over and over. So these are some ideas for you. What is something that somebody likes to do for their own self-care?
Dance.
Dance. I heard Garrett say he likes to sing. So,
So an audience.
dancing is good. You don't just sing on your own if you.
Well, I do that too, but
Because that releases
the real thrill-
endorphins and.
The real thrill is when the audience says, hey, that's pretty good. Then it washes over you. It's wonderful.
So find time. I know we all can't take 3 weeks of vacation, Jeffrey, Ross. Not here. But if you can't do that, there's other options for you.
Hey, I gotta do whatever I can, because you stress me out.
Take it. Well, what do you do when you're stressed out, Jeffrey?
I go on vacation for 3 weeks.
But then you have to come back, so.
Yeah, eventually.
Yes. Okay. So balance. Balance is important. Making sure that you are setting boundaries and limits, right? Know what your limitations are and be clear about those. Now, sometimes you have to negotiate those, right? Because not always, sometimes there's other things that are impacting your ability to balance. And so making sure that you figure out what those limitations are and what you can do and work within those constraints. So what do you spend time on? What are you spending most of your time on? What do you want to spend more time on that you're not? So think about that. It's like if you do an inventory of like, wow, I'm doing a lot of TV. Do I really want to be spending this much time on TV? And figure out how to reset that. Maybe you want to read more or something. Maybe you want to go to the gym more. So Jeffrey doesn't call you and say, have you been to the gym?
Yeah, it's accountability, buddy.
He is my accountability buddy, so. So making sure you're figuring out what's important in your life, what do you have to do for work, and then what are you doing for wellness? Because you have to have all those things in activation so that you can balance and move forward. And so I think the other thing about balance that's important is what's important? What's your value system, and what do you say is important to you? Like if family's important to you, but you're only spending 30 minutes with your family, is it really important to you? So figuring out how to rebalance that and just do a values check. I always every year look at my values that I think are important to me and figure out what do I need to do? What do I need to activate differently to balance those values? And so we're going to do an exercise in a minute. But the other thing that I like to talk about is gratitude. And we've talked a little bit about giving and seeking support, but when you are looking at what you're grateful for and thinking about all the wonderful things that are going on in your life, sometimes it's important to make a running list of that, because sometimes we can get into that negative self-talk cycle where we are just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, and this is too stressful. So sometimes it's good to have that gratitude list to kind of refocus you on, oh, there are some good things going on in my life. And so just like giving gratitude is also helps our spirit and our body and our mind feel better, right? So how many people have done gratitude circles or tried gratitude exercises with their family and work? Yeah, so what's your experience with that? Anybody want to share? Joey?
It's good. I'd say probably in the last 5 or 6 years, getting together as a family and going around the table and saying what we're thankful for, what we love each other for, and just kind of giving that to each other helps a lot. I think that's
Yeah.
huge.
You do that with your kid, your whole family?
Yeah, whole family would do that.
How old are your kids?
Teenagers?
Okay. I'm impressed. Well, we tried it.
Yeah?
It was good for a while, but then what are you grateful for? The Royals. I mean, you almost had
You have to find something to do every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was, well, then I had to change it
It's a
to what
challenge.
was what was the best thing that happened today?
Yeah.
But it did set the foundation, I think,
Yeah.
even though my kids are in their 20s, I think that set the foundation, but I was laughing about. I
Yeah.
got a little bit,
Yeah, you can't repeat a gratitude,
Yeah.
and so we have to have all kinds of rules around the gratitude.
I know, we had
But,
to learn it.
Which then they would want to disengage more at that point, yeah, it's a
I think the
challenge.
trick is making it authentic,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to do it for ourselves too. And one of the things that we talk about is journaling. But in your journal, in your daily journal, you're responsible for accounting for the gratitudes that you have. And, different people do different things. I try to find 3 new gratitudes every day.
That's awesome.
As I journal, there's 3 things that I'm grateful for, and I have to be very specific about it. I'm accountable to me, but it's that putting it down in paper that oftentimes the things that we fear, worry, and doubt about, when we get them out of our head and we put them down on paper, it's the same thing with the gratitudes. We have to get them out of our head and put them down on paper, and it's when you see it in front of you, it's like, wow, that's impactful.
yeah, that's great, and the other key takeaway there is journaling, so I don't know if you got that, but that's a wonderful way to keep yourself accountable and just experience what's going on in your life, or reflect and action plan. And so, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Joe. So, yeah, continuing to do gratitude, it helps reduce stress, depression, anxiety, all those things. One of the things that we did when, in the midst of COVID, when we were doing lockdowns and all those kinds of things, is we started a gratitude list of just like, what are all the things we're grateful for in this time, and what did it do to help, gave us more time with our family. Sometimes that's a good or bad thing. For us, we thought that was good. And so, yeah, just having that running tally, but also be willing to give gratitudes. So, does anyone want to share what they're grateful for? Joey. He's in
Let's
it.
keep talking.
He's got it.
I gotta practice. I would say I'm most grateful right now for that so many different things are going good in my life right now. So whether it's financially or with my family or all different pieces, I'm truly grateful for all the things that are happening
Awesome.
in a very good rate.
Great. But how does that make other people feel, just to hear his own gratitude? Right? It's like, wow, that's awesome. I think somebody else wanted to say something. Yes.
We work at First Federal Bank, Megan and I do, and every so often you gotta come in and do spot checks, where all the keys at, where all the combos at, everything locked up. Did you put all the customer information away? I've been at the bank like 3 days, and the internal auditor shows up, and Megan here is on vacation. But she done such a good job, I was able to find everything. We went through the books. I think the coin vault was off like $1 or less, which when you start pouring all that change into that stupid coin counter, it's always on. So because of the work she did, I was so grateful, like, oh my gosh, this is cake. This is like the best internal audit I've ever had. This thing just went so smooth. It never goes that way. There's always a key missing. There's always somebody forgot to sign something. It went fantastic. And that made me so grateful, and so really kind of paved the way for an awesome just summer, even though it was COVID. Just a great summer, and the operations just start clicking along.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's a wonderful experience that you had. I can still tell you're feeling grateful for it.
Yeah, you can hear his voice.
I'm grateful she goes on 3-week vacations too.
I've been grateful for
Robin.
the trees that have been blooming. I don't know if you have any in your neighborhood, but really just pausing, and it's just beautiful.
The daffodil fields. Gary, come
Yeah, I'm grateful that people are getting their shots
Yes, yes. Me too.
Because not only does it make things better for me, but it takes a lot of the worry away from these other people.
Right, yeah,
It's all a difference.
yes.
I'm grateful for allergy medicine because of all the trees that are put there.
Very good.
I've had a few
Yeah.
sneezing attacks myself. Well, as we continue to build our resilience, just make sure that you're using gratitudes, but then also think about the other things. Like, how are you cultivating empathy in your life? You know, what are the things that you are sharing with other people, helping them understand that you understand their perspective and what they're going through, right? Like, how do you show empathy? How do you create predictability? Like, how do you develop a plan, an action plan, or steps to manage your stress? Like, what are things that you're doing? If you know you have difficult things coming up, what is the strategy you're employing there? Stress is normal, right? It helps activate us so that we go and do things and, complete things and, don't procrastinate and don't not do them. So, and then making sure we're practicing self-care and mindfulness that Robin talked about, breathing, movement, exercise. I have to exercise every day, otherwise I will get off kilter, and it's just part of my system. It's how I balance my stress and anxiety and all that. So making sure that you're being proactive. Like, do you have downtime? We all need downtime. So how do you decompress? What's that thing that you use to decompress? And then I think the other thing that sometimes we forget, but I think you've heard a lot of it through COVID, is just giving grace, right? Understanding that people are human, everything is not perfect, and it's not the perfect situation or the storm, but just to give people grace and understand, like, I understand, like, things are difficult right now, or I understand what you're going through. So that's how you build up your resilience skills. So those are important, and we're going to flip here in a minute and start talking about our businesses and organizations. But before we do that, I just want to make sure that we think about our values and prioritize. So I gave you a little prelude earlier. So I want you to spend a few minutes, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes, so you're going to have to be quick. What values are important to you? Think about that. And the quote I have on there with Carl Jung, I think it's important for you to dream and look outward and think, because then that helps you focus internally and develop an action plan. So I like this quote from Carl Jung. But why don't you take a few minutes, talk to your neighbors and about your values and what's important to you, and what values you feel that you're not pursuing that you'd like to pursue, or things that you that are getting in the way of living your values. All right, 2 minutes, go.
My relationship, control my business. Kind of out here, not fair, throwing
I know that's hard. I think I told you my stepdad.
to write to each other.
Okay, everybody, come back to the large group. So we can talk about this. Your engagement in this exercise. Come back to the group. Oh my gosh. Come on. Come on back. Come on back. We got a lot to get to. All right. I love that you guys engaged that exercise so well. I mean, it is such a fun exercise. So I know. I'm sorry I didn't do well. I'm pressing you, right? I'm trying to create some tension. So what does somebody want to share their values? I know there's a lot of good conversations. I walked around the room and heard some really great things. Does anyone want to share one? That they want to pursue more, or that they want to activate more, develop, or? Joey. Thank you.
Go, Joe.
I love it.
So my wife and I used to write to each other back and forth in a journal, and when he was talking about that, we used to do it pretty regularly. We don't do it so much anymore, so I'm gonna try to surprise her and do that.
Oh. You're gonna send
Joey.
To start that out.
You can't see it, but his nose is brown underneath that mask.
all the husbands in here going,
That's awesome. Does anyone want to try to beat that?
No.
That's wonderful.
So there's, I gotta beat myself. We'll see, yeah.
Well, hopefully this has put you back in touch with, if there's something you want to be activating, that you can go forth and do that. All right, I think we're going to switch. So now I'm going to switch and start talking about organizational health. So I focus obviously on your individual health and how to contribute to your organization. And so I want to get a feel for how many people are in an organization where they're on a team of 5 or more. Okay, 0. 1.
HOA board.
Okay. What about, are you in an organization with 1 to 5? Or 2 to 5, let me say that, 2 to 5. And then who's the singles? You're running your own single proprietary business. Okay, that helps me as we think about this. And so,
I should have raised my hand on the 5+.
okay, thank you.
My office says 25.
I did know that, but thank you for that. So, when I think about organizational health, and so culture and organizational health create a wonderful culture. And so what you have to be aware of is you have to create a safe environment for that to happen. And so being vulnerable, taking risks, doing something that feels uncomfortable first is going to help push you a little into creating an opportunity for people to share with you that they may not normally share. And so I guess when you think about this, and you can think about this in your family, I guess, and in your business, or maybe even with your clients, how are you helping create an opportunity for them to open up to you about something that you're trying to talk about with them? So, and that may be doors and more, right? Or garages and more. I forgot what your little statement was.
Door systems.
Door systems.
We do more than garage doors.
So, but when you're out there in the world selling whatever you're selling or doing what you're doing, you're creating an opportunity for an interaction with somebody, right? And so you want to build a relationship. And so all of those things, I mean, I think the tenets of what we're going to talk about here, but a lot of times you have to do things that are uncomfortable, right? And risk and be vulnerable with people to help create a system where they may want to have an interaction with you, right? So anyway, we'll look at it like that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this organizational health model, but has anybody heard of Patrick Lencioni? I know Sean has, because I'm a big Patrick Lencioni fan. But he's the one who writes the organizational health model. that I think is great. And so I'm going to take you through that. If you want to learn more about him, he has a podcast on, it's called At the Table with Pat, and then the Table Group. And so you can go to their website, download this information if you're interested in getting more about it. But, it's 4 tenets of it. I'm going to focus mostly on building a cohesive leadership team, but then also how are you communicating with clarity to your team, family, or community, or your business partners. So first, as you look at building a cohesive team, we're going to get into this a little bit more in depth in a minute, but cohesive teams eliminate politics and increase effectiveness. One, by building trust, right? Trust is at the base of everything that we do, and so you have to have trust. You also have to be able to have healthy conflict. And so who doesn't like the word conflict in this room? I know I have one, because we have conversations about not having conflict. But actually conflict is good and brings debate, healthy conflict that is. So if you have a good trusting relationship with somebody, you can have a good in-depth dialogue with them about whatever the issue is. And then how are you committing to those decisions? How are you holding people accountable with your accountability buddies? And then how are you focusing on results? And so that's the pyramid. We're going to get more into that in a minute. The creating clarity is really building a playbook. And I didn't put my example of my playbook in here, but why do you exist? Why does your business exist? Not you personally, why do what you're doing as an organization exist? How do you behave? And so what are those values that you're activating? What is it that you do? How do you say that in a clear, concise manner? How do you know success when you've done it? I heard Garrett say applause, feedback, right? More contracts, referrals.
Testimonial.
Yeah. So how do you define what that success is? And then figuring out what is the single most important thing right now? What is the one thing that you need to activate to make your organization, your business stronger? And then who must do that? Who's doing that work? Is that just you? Is that a team of a couple people? And defining what those roles are in your team. Over communicating that clarity. And so finding multiple ways to communicate your strategy. We know that one way of communicating is not the right way, right? There's multiple people hear things differently. They see things differently. We get lots of emails. And so, a lot of times people say, call me on the phone or text me, like different ways of getting multiple mediums. And sometimes they say you got to hear something 7 times, 7 different ways to actually activate it. So making sure you have that strategy in place and then reinforcing that clarity, like how are you building that through your whole team or organization? How are you putting that into your performance and your recognition and how you manage your employees and your manager meetings? So one of the things I like to talk about is building the cohesive team. And so Patrick also has a book, it's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I like to flip it and say the 5 functions of a team. And so this is something I do with my team. We look at and evaluate where we are. And so there's an evaluation tool. You can go to the website if you're interested, Table Group, and download that. He actually now has an interactive website. I think you have to pay for it. But from it, you can build an action plan around what do you need to be doing differently around building trust with your coworkers. It could be your family members. It could be your clients. What does that look like? And to do that, you have to be vulnerable. And so you have to take risk. You have to understand, you have to put yourself out there so that people know that you're willing to take that risk and be open to that. And so being a president and CEO of an organization where we have 30 employees, sometimes when you carry titles, and I don't like to roll my title around a lot, but people are inhibited by that. And they're like, oh, I can't go talk to him because of that title. And it's like, no, trying to build an open system where people feel comfortable saying that. And sometimes they don't want to say what they want to say, right? So you have to find ways to get people to open up and trust that you will allow them to say what they want to say. Any other things that people feel like this is a basic tenet, right, of life, trusting? Anybody have any other thoughts about it? Do you find it easy to build trust? Until there's a reason not, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What I try to do is ask the person what they want to achieve, not can what my company do for them. And then come at them in a way that says, well, if you'll consider doing this and this and this, it'll make this easier. And we were talking during that little time that you gave us about an issue that I think is very important, and it's called worthiness. People don't feel worthy in this country. You have people coming in while you're going out of the building, and they're letting you go by, and they're saying that they're sorry that they got in your way. They're not sorry, they don't know what to say. They don't have a feeling of worth themselves. And so they don't know how to express that to other people.
Yeah.
And
That's-
teams really need to know they're worthy.
Yeah, that's a good point, like accepting that and being able to own that. I think the other thing, and so we talked about this, how do you build healthy conflict? And that's built on trust. How do you debate topics with people that how do you disagree? We've had a lot of disagreement in our community, in our society of recent, and like, how do you build a situation where you don't always have to see the same things the same way, right? And so in our teams, we have that same thing as well, where we need to be able to feel like we don't have to agree on everything, but the goal is that we build through that debate a way to have agreement, right? And build commitment around buy-in and having one voice. So we can disagree in our, team or whatever, and then come out of that with, like, this is gonna be what our approach moving forward. And I do that even with my wife around things that we're trying to decide on, and we don't agree on it exactly, and then we're like, all right, well, this is how we're gonna move forward with this. And you buy that plan and you sell it, right? Because that's what you do.
I think the hardest thing on there, Terry, is the word fear. I think just the word fear is overcoming the fear, because that was one of my hardest things.
Yeah.
I did raise my hand on the conflict part, and that has always been mine. It's fear of, you're gonna get in trouble if you open your mouth.
Right.
It's gonna start something that you can't stop.
Because that is a system that has been prevalent and activated for many years, right? And so overcoming.
But I think conflict has gotten worse. Before you could have conflict and move on, I think now you see on in the news or something, conflict now sometimes ends up in a shooting down. I mean, that kind of stuff now, where conflict before used to be somebody punched somebody. I mean, on the playground, but you know what I mean? It's to me like it's.
Well, hopefully we're not doing that in our organization.
No, but I mean overall,
On our
in our
teams.
society, conflict is not.
Right.
That proves Terry's premise in the sense that the conflict has become more jagged or rough because of the lack of trust.
Right.
If I can't trust that you have my best interest at heart, even though we disagree on something, then our conflict, we can't even debate,
I know, I don't like that.
productively. So that's where the conflict is. It's the polarization that has pushed us. apart because we don't trust.
Okay, that makes.
So without trust, you can't have good conflict.
Absent
But
of,
don't you feel
absence
like
of
the
trust.
trust has gotten
Yeah.
weak? I mean, because, so the conflict is happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it builds on itself, right? So you have to have the trust so that you can have the conflict, the active, engaged conflict and debate. Then you build commitment towards one cause and one area that you want to focus on. And then you commit to that, right? And you build the accountability around that. You have accountability partner, or you have somebody that's going to hold you accountable to that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes in meetings, we'll say, okay, you're gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and it'll be done by this date and time. And then when you come back, like, have you done that? So, and then what are the results of that? Did you activate the strategy? And so it builds on itself to create an active, engaged organizational system in your team, in your business. All right, I know we're running out of time. So, the other thing about building a healthy organization is encouraging resilience in our employees, our coworkers, our colleagues, our family members, even our clients, right? We build relationships with our clients, get to know them pretty well, and then how we know when they're going through difficult times, like how are we helping them be resilient? And so one of the things you do is you let people know that you trust them, right? To do the job, to do what you're asking them to do, that you believe in them, that their voice matters and they can speak up. And for people that don't want to activate that voice, getting them, I'm always trying to get employees to activate their voice so I can hear what their thoughts are about something, because I think more opinions about things together are going to make you stronger as an organization, and getting that out on the table, talking through that. And so supporting them. What does support look like for your team? Everybody's different and they don't like the same level of support or the same type of support, right? So you have to figure out what that is. Some people like a kudos, like a, hey, you're doing a great job with that. Other people don't like that. So you have to figure out what's important to them, what motivates them to activate that strategy. And then I'm always asking my staff this, like, do you have everything you need to do your job? Like, so when we went all remote, do you have everything you need at home? And so we figured that out. What I quickly found out is people needed desk chairs, because you don't have desk chairs at home. Not everybody, if you don't have a home office. So that was an easy fix. So figure out what people need to do their job and be successful. How do you support them in that? And then, are they feeling valued as part of the organization? What do you do to show value of what people are doing? Not just your employees, but your colleagues, right? Your clients even. Robin gives us chocolate. All right. So and then how do you build a culture of compassion in your organization? So do you have a growth mindset? Are you open to generative ideas and building an actionable plan? What are the expectations? Are they clear? Do you understand what they are? Does your team understand what they are? Are you able to have those conversations? Are you able to show compassion? So what do you find helpful in building a healthy culture in your system, your organization, your business, your team? Anybody want to share?
We have monthly meetings and it's a round table. Everybody says whatever's on their mind, any complaints, any kudos. It just, now's your time to talk. If you've got a problem, bring it up and we discuss.
So you have the trust in that monthly meeting to be able to say what you need to say and get it out and then talk through it. That's
And
good.
some of them have been difficult.
Is it
I mean, everything
helpful?
everything hasn't been sun and roses. There's been
Yeah.
issues and we've talked about it, so.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, having monthly open meetings. We did do that with our teams as well, virtually, when things were going on, like, here's just some time for you, like, what do you want to talk about? No agenda. Does somebody else want to say something? I thought I saw somebody else. Yeah.
The first two, Terry, are the ones that unfortunately, it's been my experience that are the greatest areas of concern we can have, you and I can have a growth mindset, but your definition of a growth mindset could be vastly different than my growth mindset is. And because the leadership sets a clear expectation, that doesn't mean that the team understands that that expectation as clearly as leadership believes they set it. And so those two, whether it's growth mindset, whether it's improvement mindset, whether it's, we're going to the next level, whatever the mindset is, if there's 5 people, there's 5 different mindsets, even though we use the same one.
Yeah, that's such an important point. You have to make sure you're communicating clearly that everybody is on the same page about what that is. Like, what is that goal? What is that growth mindset? What does that look like? Because you're right, it is different for everybody. And that's why you have to have the clarity around what is the actionable plan? What is the single most important thing we're trying to achieve right now? And everybody working towards that. And what is your role in working towards that? So, yeah, great point.
There's a fantastic book it's called Fierce Conversation by
Yes.
Susan Scott.
Yes, it is a good book.
And what she talks about in there is that you have to interrogate reality on a constant basis. So everyone has some semblance of what the discussion's about, so the other people can say, well, it means this too. And I'm in the midst of that right now.
Yeah, you gotta have that conversation and that debate, right? You
Yeah.
gotta get it out on the table and have agreement around it. Very good. Let's see. So, okay, here is just another tool. If you wanna have access to it, Resilience Builder, they have an organizational assessment tool that you can take around helping build a stronger culture and with an action plan. It's there. And then just some final thoughts about building a resilient, healthy, mentally well organization and personal self, but vulnerability is important to be resilient. You have to take a risk, right? You have to be willing to step out, as hard as that may be, because if you're in a position where you are like just frozen and fearful, that's hard to do, right? That's hard to say, oh, I'm gonna speak up and say, this is what I need, or this is what I wanna do, or this is how I wanna contribute, or I don't agree with that strategy. And so you have to be vulnerable. And then having grace is vital to success, and just helping people feel engaged and understand that you have the compassion for whatever they may be going through. And non-judgmental, right? We're quick to be judging and make assumptions without knowing the full story. And so trying to step back from that and ask questions and understand people's perspectives is important in an organization, with your clients, with your family, with everything you do. And so I think it's translatable to anything, any and every situation that you may be in. And then what are you gonna do differently after today? I already heard what Joey's doing, so. Anybody else wanna share what they might do differently today? You guys got all quiet all of a sudden? Come on.
I'm gonna try to show more grace.
Oh, thank you, Jeffrey.
I'm gonna order the book,
Okay.
The Advantage. That
Oh, are
sounds
you?
like a good book.
Yeah, it's a great book. I buy it for a lot of people. So I just want to close with, just know that we're here, CommCARE's here, we are here to listen to you. You can call our number if you need it. We do answer the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and we also answer the National Disaster Distress Hotline related to COVID specifically, and we can connect people to counselors if they need them immediately. So with our partners. The other thing I wanted to share is I don't know if you've heard about the rollout of 988, similar to 911, but there's a mental health crisis line that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is becoming by June of next year, where you can actually, who has T-Mobile here? So you can dial 988 today, and you will get the National Suicide Lifeline. So just know that that number will become the number that everyone can call for a mental health crisis in the next year, and already is for some. So as carriers will roll that out. And then also know, Sean's here, that we are here to help with EAP, Employee Assistance Services as well. And so if you need to understand what that is more, Sean can discuss that with you, and we're happy to help. The other thing that we like to do is engage our community with coffee chats. So if you want to start your day, Thursday mornings, 8:30 to 9, it's real quick and easy. You can sign up, we do them monthly. It's just a way to promote mental health and wellness. And so our next one's coming up on April 22nd, how to build lasting connections. And so we'll be exploring how to increase autonomy, working through compassion, and helping understand people's passion and desire. And so Jonathan Bowes, our manager, is going to be leading us through that conversation. And these are interactive conversations, so we present some ideas and then we want to hear from you. So if you want more about that, let me know. And then you can always engage with us. We like to partner with organizations. We've started a volunteer program, and then we also have our current annual appeal. If you want to help other people engage mental health services, we're happy to allow that. And there you go.